stay in the hostel. But I thought, let me take this opportunity and stay outside. So I stayed alone. I had a lot of time to explore what's happening. So a few things that came to my mind was that one, in this engineering college, Bhopal mein MA City, I could not find even one person truly interested in learning. And not one professor interested in learning. You must distinguish between interest in teaching versus interest in learning. Everybody is interested in teaching, even though they know nothing. This is what education teaches you, to teach. Hardly met anyone with deep learning means commitment to wanting to know what is happening, not how to teach. But you take any subject. You remember meeting anybody who is actually interested in what they are learning? Very, very rare. Mugging up is not learning. Learning is a different process altogether. So this is what actually, I felt that you're just wasting time. And so after this, I was expelled only for 1 year. And of course, with some work we did, and then they got me back. So that time I decided all the struggles were there. And so what I'm telling is that there's no luxury for me to decide not to work, but I chose not to work. Then what happened was that luckily I got into NID, Ahmedabad, National Institute of Design. In fact, my going there was not really to learn anything. I didn't know anything about NID. But main thing was that, one, I found that there was some art and all that. I thought it would be so difficult, so tough as doing MTech, So instead I chose that, because 3 years I'll get stipend. That was the main purpose. Things are stipend. And student life is anyway not that difficult, not going to work. Mainly that was the reason why I went into design, really without knowing. But when I went there, within few months, I realized it's a fantastic place. I had never been to Shantiniketan or Tagore, or I've not even read much, but I've heard a few things about. I felt this is something like that. What I mean by that is that it had a completely free environment. No one was involved in teaching. Every student was involved in learning. No compulsion, no test, no exam. And whenever you meet another student, he will be or she will be asking, what are you exploring these days? This is very rare in any institution. Engineering में तो हम पूछते थे कि कौन सी मूवी जाना है, बस और कुछ तो मतलब ये तो साइड के बिजनेस है ना, ये एजुकेशन हमारा लाइफ तो बाहर है, ये तो कैसे ही करना है. And you see in most engineering colleges these days everybody wants IT. Those days it is IPS and IAS. UPSC pass करो, IAS IPS बनाओ. Whatever you study, engineering कौन सी भी subject. Or some clerk in some ONGC or something like that, clerical engineering. That's what we do, sign karo or wo karo, So NIT was a fantastic place, and I consider that as a second womb, a womb in which my rebirth began to happen. It was a process, and many questions I had. Whereas in the modern scenario, everything is changed. So I began to start exploring what is learning, what is beauty, and issues like that. Not that I didn't know anything, and And there were a few other incidences which really, another very important thing that happened was that I joined for product. Understand? For some reason, and I had no idea why it was. I was rejecting this. I felt that I have to do, not think and do. I have to do. So I would just go into the junkyard, take some wood, and start working. Slowly, this doing thing became my main this thing, not thinking and doing, you know. And I had no reason for that. I had no idea. And one thing that I was doing was that I've been very honest to my inner me. When this happened, I felt that I should really, stop this and start doing that. So I began to work in different, materials. I would just take clay and start working on it. So that I'm mentioning because our modern crisis, fundamental crisis, is the division between mind and body. Yeah, and this is the crisis. There is no other crisis, and the crisis is not school. The whole civilization, humanitarian crisis, it's an existential crisis. All the destruction that we are doing is because of the fragmentation of mind and body. We are destroying the body. We have destroyed the body. What we are doing to ourselves, we are extending to the world. That's all. So the first destruction is that we have denied our body, our senses, what is feminine. You know, what is sensorial, intuition, anything that has to do with your body has been completely neglected. That is and that's also the reason why we are against children. The children belong to that realm, and we busy want them to become masculine. Use language, so because you see, sensitivity basically means understanding without language. That's what sensitivity means, and that is one thing that is missing today. Senses don't function. You don't see anything. You understand? This is what education does to our, मैं वेट करता हूँ ये आ गया तुझे क्या कहता ये भी ऑन हो गया ना हाँ ये भी Actually, your presentation which I did there, I'll do this. Actually, same story, the one story, Gaika. No, that story. About a child learned about the guy के बारे में क्वेश्चन आया ट्री के बारे में मालूम है ना नहीं मालूम तो हाँ क्वेश्चन आया ट्री के बारे में तो बच्चे क्या किया वो गाय को बांध लिया ट्री के साथ और गाय के बारे में लिखा हाँ तो मेरा भी कहानी तो वही है एक ही कहानी है टॉपिक मैं हेडिंग चेंज करता रहता हूँ डिपेंडिंग अपॉन हु इज कॉलिंग आई चेंज टॉपिक only one subject, which is that there is a crisis. We don't understand children and all that primarily because of education. Everything, the whole cause of modern problems is because of intentional education, because of intention. Because everything is happening without intention, pure egoistic intention. Life is happening, but the moment you begin to take over, creating mess. So that's the whole thing. And I think the whole morning that we were talking about is also between these two processes. One is a process-oriented life, other one is a product-oriented life. That is the, basic. So, अब आ रहा है आपको भी शुरू में थोड़ा दिखना अच्छा रहेगा मुझे प्रोसेस में जाना हाँ अभी आराम से कोई बात नहीं क्या झगड़ा चल रहा है क्या झगड़ा चल रहा है पूछते हैं? हैं? अच्छा, ओ कुछ खोल, आपको तो खोलना है ना? Yeah. So basically, see, there are two things that I've been exploring. One is, what is the fundamental damages that modernity has done? Second is, what is the biological basis for our being? This is one thing that is completely forgotten. It's all a mental construct that we are engaging with. What is the biology? So, the biological basis is what we are trying to, explore. So ये अभी ये सब छोड़ दो, उनके लिए बनाया था, but let me just show you something. Okay, this I showed you now. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. देखा ना आपने? Okay, now when you saw that, where did your eye go? To the written thing, na? That's what I wanted to prove. That educator has no choice but to read, because seeing demands your presence. Reading demands only the mind. Seeing demands the whole body, whole being. You cannot see otherwise. You see? Now you're seeing. And there are some very other interesting things that I came across. Look at this, huh? एक ही चीज कंफ्यूजन तो नहीं हुआ? अब देखो, देखा? This is the difference between mind and body. Here it is learning the real world. It's a physiological response. Your whole being is responding to that. And in this one, it's only the mind that is, or the interpretation is taking place. There's no seeing. Understand? So this has to be very clearly understood, because seeing is a different activity. Reading is a very different activity. Yeah? So actually, two areas that has really fascinated me is literacy. How literacy has been primarily a damaging impact on human beings. And this was something that has been talked about many years ago. Right from the time, there is a dialogue in Plato about how an Egyptian king is approached by somebody who was invented this writing, and he's asking the king that I have found this fantastic way, and the king is denying it. No, this is not a good idea. It will only your memory wholesome will be damaged. This is this is not something that I actually found out. This is something that has been explored many centuries ago, about how writing language should be dealt very carefully. In non-literate communities, speaking is very less. Well, everybody is experiencing the same thing, so what is there to speak? So, in our biological journey, our human journey, two incidents have impacted us biologically. Other changes are sociological. Other you hunter-gatherer थे, farming हुआ, इसमें biological level पे change नहीं है, ठीक है? Minor हुआ भी तो minor. But raw food to cooked food was a major change. It was impacting you biologically. And also, it is very clear that in the initial stages, I'm sure the body must have resisted it, because our body is basically for raw food, not for cooked food. Now, but for thousands of years, we have changed, adapted. Adapted meaning biologically adapted. Understand? So this biological aspect is very important. That is what, so the whole system changed, which means I'm sure that even our blood must have changed because of this change. A lot of changes must have taken place biologically within us. And the second change that took place is when shifting from orality to literacy. Orality demands your whole being to take part. Language is oral, it is heard, it is not seen, it is not read. Correct, no? Not only that, it also reduced the demand for your senses to function. Your senses are no longer functioning. You don't have to be present. You're imagining. In fact, the root meaning of the word read is to guess. It has come from guessing. You're only guessing. Now. When you're reading, you're guessing. So it's rapid guessing when you keep reading. You're creating images. You're not dealing with real at all. So this fundamental changes that have taken place has never been a subject of modern research. Because modernity basically is an invention of literacy. You see, literacy, what it did primarily was to make child incapable. It created a situation of child helplessness, purpose. Understand? Because seeing doesn't demand your mediation. Your senses doesn't need your help, no? But our assumption that it is through reading that you have to learn, child became incapable immediately. So modern childhood is an invention of literacy. In fact, actually it's also because of our impatience of not providing enough environment for the child to learn, even to pick up this automatically. Even that is happening. You don't have to teach children at all. Reading and writing, all that they can do, provided just you leave them alone. You know? So this modern childhood, modernity has invented. So modernity completely changed the way human beings are present, are living. You know. So I told you, it naturally changed. The nature of language also changed. So it changed from experiential to mental. I purposely use the word mental because it is the thing with modernity is that it is very arrogant and it claims superior and it doesn't have no way of looking at itself as something is wrong. Everybody else is wrong. We are right. Of course, that's what it is. No? See, educated means without your choice, you're superior. No, superiority complex is not a choice. You go through education, you feel you're educated, then you feel superior. So this without your knowledge, you feel superior. So what I mean is that it's reshaped our beingness. Otherwise, this hierarchical mind is a modern mind. Nobody else has this hierarchical, mind. So what I was trying to say was that we normally use that, we have been dealing with abstract knowledge. That's not true. We only have mental knowledge. Mental, it's a very mental construct. It's not abstract at all. And it became from contextual, it became non-contextual. And from process orientation, it became product orientation. What I mean by this is that knowledge became a product. That's the first product that humans invented. Yeah? And that is actually, people usually talk about industrialization as the cause of problems. No, it is production of knowledge that is the cause for them. Because otherwise it is always a process. And also the difference between indigenous and modern monetary, another change is that tradition has, differentiated between information and knowledge. Information, when it is experience, that only then it becomes knowledge. Till then it is information. And in a process-oriented knowledge system, that is the only thing that is lifelong learning. Now they have taken over all terminology, modernity. You heard this new term, lifelong learning, because they understood that you have killed it. Otherwise, why should you use that term at all? You see, this is what it is. Actually, if you just look at the language that modernity uses, look at it critically, you know the tragedy they are in. Because they have afterthoughts. Include children, inclusiveness. You exclude first, then you include. No? You take any terminology, you will find certain characteristics in modern language. It will be linear. Exclusion is there. There are more. I mean, I can't remember, but just by looking at the language, you can understand the nature of modernity. This process orientation is clear in language. That when we say, "Koi gir gaya," na to mera haath jal gaya. You translate that into English. How would you say? I burned my finger. Correct, no? So, just in the way language is used, you can see clearly how I become important, and so that is the basic problem that I see. that in my experience of looking at children, children has been my, that has been my basic source of inspiration to understand what is a child. And every time I feel, because we hear about this non-dualism and all that, no, as philosophy, dualism. But I find that existentially, this is a thing that children are non-dual existentially. It's not a philosophy; it's a way of being. So this two-dimensionality, appearance of two-dimensionality is a modern issue. ये बहुत ज़्यादा है तो मैं I'll just quickly take you to some. So this is very interesting that if you can, computer science people, lots of people. So what I found very interesting is that the similarity, the comparison between machine learning to AI and regular schooling. They have made all the effort to make machine intelligent, but they ensured that the children are human beings, not children. We are all idiots, not just children. So that education, human education, is retained in the same manner. No change. Or some here and there they talk about all these things, but never addressing the basic. Here, what I found very interesting, मैंने जो बोला, वो linguistic inputs देते हैं और उसका outputs measure करते हैं. This is basically the whole. This is what education is all about. Then they will find different ways, but the content is always the same. है कि नहीं? अलग-अलग तरीका ढूंढते हैं, वही तो सिखाते हैं. और freedom भी बच्चों को देते तो पढ़ने को तो वही है ना. So, और अभी the next promise is that they will use AI and you become the servant of AI, assist AI to teach the same. And so what is now happening is that all these universities and many more of them, they are all studying how children learn. What's interesting is that this is taking place after years of not studying how children learn. And their studies is wrong. I've looked at what they are doing because all their studies is lab-like. They create a lab situation, they will give children something to do, and then they will measure and tell this is what children do. If you really want to understand children in their spontaneity, in the natural response, what they do to the world. Not in your lab where you tell them to do this and that, and then you say this is how children are. No? So why they did this was because that they found that children are the most intelligent and fastest learners. And in order to teach machines, they realized that if they study children, how they learn, they can really make machines intelligent, faster. This is that. So can this be heard?
One can look at the story of computer science and think we have at least three ages. One is the age of programmers. The age of programmers were paying very smart people quite a lot of money to make some system behave in an intelligent way. We are now in the age of labelers, in which you pay a lot of people not much money in order to label data. And both of them, especially this one, is going to number of label data. But of course, children don't have big data. We really would like to be able to show one car and one plate to a child, like we do for a child, and then they're able immediately to generalize very well. So our ideal is then going to one, and to have computers that learn by children from experience.
Understood, no? So this is something that, right from the time when AI was started, that person also, let me think, what's his name? AI ka jo, No. Sorry. He also mentions, right, in the thing that children are the, So it's very interesting that also it's very interesting to see the whole origin of cognitive science. Again, it is not to study children and understanding. It's all about machines. So if you look at the distortion of a Western knowledge system, that it is only to develop machines and everything else, not about humans. You know, all studies today is done for merchandise. In fact, I was some person doing research on sensors was connected with me in Canada. So, and I found that all the research on sensors is basically to understand how each people use sense so that they can create merchandise as per that. You know, not for human well-being. Don't mistake this. Understand that? So don't get into this foolish idea that you can, get children to do anything. So this is a very, very important shift that that we need to take. So simply, whether we should learn from AI how to teach or whether learn from children how to learn. And this is what I've been telling. It is from children that we should learn what is learning. How do they learn? What do they learn? So actually, my thing is that when I went to villages, I began to stay in rural tribal areas. And initially with the regular NGO idea that I can help them. But as I realized it is that they are much better off, they are creative, they are far more rooted, they know more. So I felt that, I who should be learning from them. And the other thing that I also did spontaneously was to stop reading completely. Reading completely. Reading. I don't read. I stopped reading completely. Also, that was mainly because I was staying in a beautiful village, and that village had potters, weavers, kanchari, farmers, all kinds of people in that beautiful small village, the river nearby, and my habit was that 3 foot ka bed mein, 1 foot for books, 3 books open all the time. When I'm bored, one another book. That is the way I was reading. And luckily, I think I was reading Walden Pond. Have you read Walden Pond? Walden Pond is a beautiful, description of how thorough is to be near Walden. Walden is a pond, Massachusetts, and his experience of living in that jungle and making, it's a very beautiful experience. So, in between, I realized that what foolishness I'm doing, life is happening all around me, and I'm reading about experience. So that's when I thought it was really foolish to, keep doing this, and I stopped reading. I picked completely philosophy, psychology, science, everything. And the other thing was that if you, in order to understand India, you're reading what Western thinks. Nobody is actually, and even if Indians wrote, it's all based on Western paradigm, whether it's sociology, anthropology, the lens is best. So I felt it was not a good idea to read. So I completely stopped reading, and I began to observe these people. And one thing that became very clear in that exploration was that, anyway, I won't go back, is that literature in the world and in the world. Correct, huh? Literate learn the world, illiterate learn the world. And also, much later, when I began to also explore the whole fundamental issue about human formation, I realized that whatever you engage with will shape your brain. Your brain system will be shaped by what you engage with. So, right, you're clear, no? Your two-dimensional framework comes from reading. Your fragmentation, compartmentalization, anything that you talk about, your linear mind, everything comes from the characteristic that is existing in the nature of what you engage with. The nature of the text is what we are talking about. It is not simultaneous. It is sequential. It is linear. Compartmentalization, right? All this, the mind of a modern man is actually mind of the characteristics of the text, right? Now, what is even more dangerous is now the brain is being wired by the digital tools. You can very clearly understand that the characteristics that you see in children today or the younger generation today will be the characteristics that are there in the system. the way this behaves. Understand? It will be very clear. So you do a coordinated study, no? इसको देखो, बच्चों को देखो, वो क्या कर रहा है, उनका impatience किधर आ रहा है, you know? Why we say there is no attention, this thing. It's all because that is the way this is behaving. Understand? So these are the areas I feel, you know, that requires absolute research. You know, if you really want to understand what is happening today, because everybody is depending on Western research, and they have really no, and also, you know, because of the way they feel superior, they have no reason to believe that text has damaged them. Of course, there have been very few people. It's not that very few people, but they are sidelined. They are never discussed about. You know, there have been very critical people within the West who have tried to look at this, but there is no deep study on this. They are, you know, kept aside. Nobody would ever hear of them. Like evangelists, I don't think anybody would hear of evangelists in the regular education pattern. Yeah? One person that has really critically looked at the West is evangelists. Yeah? And there are many more actually. But so I began to document children. That is what I did. And in that documentation, I found that, and I began to document what children do spontaneously, not in the manner that you know, that lab-like situation. You make them do something and then you. That's not what I was doing. I was looking at them very clearly, very, you know, I was also not. It became I see. That's what I meant. You know. So with this huge documentation, we were able to really see a pattern emerging, that every activity children do everywhere has a pattern. From this pattern recognition, I was able to decode the structure that is given by nature to understand the world. It's a choiceless thing. Like I is functioning choicelessly. All right, you're not choosing it. Your senses, you are not choosing. It's happening. Similarly, so this learning is not intentional. Like children in Bangalore slums learn 4 languages. No intention. They are there. That four languages are being spoken. They speak it, you know. So it's as natural as that. So that is why I thought, you know, if I start looking at each and every activity that children do, you know, and actually I was not doing it that purposely, you know. Whatever they were doing, I found that, you know, I started documenting. That's when I realized that there is something really, you know, worth, there is some structure given by life to children to understand the world. And other thing that I've been more and more getting involved in is to understand what is knowledge and how that gets created, and the difference between what is implicit knowledge and explicit knowledge. What I mean by this is that you all learn to speak mother tongue without any help. Everybody, but without actually having an implicit understanding of grammar. Can you speak language at all? No. Which means grammar is something that got embedded. Correct? So there is a innate understanding of grammar. You won't be able to, which is now with verb and all that. You won't be able to tell the structure is embedded, and which means there is an implicit knowledge of grammar that got embedded without you choose. That's implicit knowledge. Likewise, every activity we are using the rules of physics and all that mathematics. It got embedded in it. Correct? No. So this is what I began to, because I found that, you know, you see, the thing is that I have taken up a fight. So I need lots of references and lots of evidences, because I feel that the more you depend on Western cognitive science, there's no way out at all. You know? Because their cognition is only in the mind. But to me, cognition cannot happen without the body and the what you're cognizing. It's a one, you know, it's an integrated thing. It's not, you know, it's not just happening in the mind. It cannot happen in the mind, you know, alone. So that's the reason why I am, you know, all and all doing this. And the other thing is that what education has been trapped in is into very mechanized way of existence. And in my own experience, who helped me to get out of this is being with children. But being with children minus the mind that you have. If you approach children with the same mind, you will destroy children further. You may think you are helping them, but the problem is your mind is not able to see what children do. Because see, for a child, there is nothing called art. Play is not different from learning. So we have actually fragmented all their integral experience into play, learning, work, art, entertainment, like that, whatever we feel like, you know. वो अलग अलग ये बांट दिया, जगह भी ऐसे अलग अलग बांट दिया कि लर्निंग के लिए ये जगह है, प्ले के लिए वो जगह है. So the fundamental problem is that how do we become reintegrated? And only with this integration that you will be able to see the child as integration. So the basic issue is that how do we, modern educated human beings, regain what we naturally had, you know, this integration, you know, the way the mind and body functioning together. Today it is the mind that is functioning, the mind that is constantly engaging with everything. Huh? So I show you a few videos about what I am trying to talk about. Ye knowledge creation is happening. And again, other major confusion that we have is that in the realm of the Western knowledge, the idea of authenticity and originality really is very different way I'm looking at it. Every living being is original and authentic. And authenticity is killed by education, because you're not authentically involved in anything. Understand that? For them, okay, I'll take a look at this. So ये एक्टिविटी में सब कुछ हो रहा है ना, मैथमेटिक्स चल रहा है ना, एक्सपेरिमेंट चल रहा है, इंजीनियरिंग चल रहा है, सब कुछ है ना, इन्वेंटिंग टेक्निक्स भी ढूंढ रहा है, you know. So it is a natural thing. Every child is like this. There is no speciality about any child. Every child, every living being is intelligent. You know, in order to deal with its situation, naturally there is intelligence. There is no ego involved in that. They won't say that I connect. Till you interfere and tell, very good. Otherwise, everybody is a very natural thing. Creativity is nothing to be celebrated. When we celebrate it, we are telling them it's something special. It's not special at all. It is so natural to be creative. So, you know, actually, recently I began to explore this more because I felt that this decoding is now required, because people are completely confused about what is knowledge. You know, so see, the thing is that now we have been take out of our integrity. We are just damaged, you know. So, and unless, and actually, if the rural people, for example, they will pray. They don't have any doubt about God existence. But हम अभी जाएगा भी तो pretend करना पड़ेगा, है ना? और हमारा आजकल ऐसा है कि थोड़ा वो है, opportunistic है. कोई problem है तो जाके pray करेगा. You see, we can't really truly involve with prayer. There has to be some proof. That's what I think, you know. So I felt that it is very important to prove to people that this is what children do. And also everybody is so trapped in their Western nonsense. No? Unless you have a proper proof to convince, they will not believe in any word I say. You know, I'm asking somebody to give me a PhD, but as from Western arrival, nobody will believe this. Yeah. So tools. So all this is natural, provided adults are not around, please. Because see, the difference between rural experience of children and urban is that adults are never present with children in a rural. They are totally on their own. See, the difference is that there is no teaching at all. See, when I adopted a child, 3 decisions I took based on what I have seen, always in the village. Never say no to her, always follow her. Follow her meaning that's my personal interest to understand what she does. That also nobody does in the village. We are left completely free and never lied to her. And because I did that, I was really able to see what is natural about what she does. No? That is what is missing today because we are concerned, we are stressed, we are worried about their health, so we overfeed them, you know. And this whole Western nonsense about freedom, choice, and all that, no, they have now sunk it to us, and we are mistaking what is freedom. You know? See, the basic issue is that modernity, it is reversed everything. Body's needs have been turned into mind's needs. Hunger is a body's need. We have turned into mind's need now. No? We are acting mindful, ना? Vitamin और वो क्या बोलते हैं उसको प्रोटीन वगैरह खा रहा है ना, चावल थोड़ी खा रहा है ना हम. Yeah. So even the very language is mind-based language. We are not no longer talking about body. Body doesn't understand what you talk about. And this is natural. I sometimes feel why I'm studying this. You know? It's so natural. Senses, without senses, there is no input is possible without senses. Understand? If the senses don't function, they're as good as you don't exist. In that sense, now it is really interesting to study Anne Sullivan's work with Helen Keller. Very, very beautiful work. You know, but please do it with children. Children don't need that at all. If you need somebody who doesn't have eyes and all that, then you try that. But don't use it for regular children. They don't need any help. So what I mean by observation is attention to all the senses. All the senses are constantly there, but in the human thing, it is the eyes that works more. Unlike other, you know, other animals and other species have different things, you know. But for human, it is the eyes that are, you know, that requires more, and probably ears next, you know, because I think in the daytime it is the eyes, night it is the ear, and the other senses are nearer, no? Unless you touch, taste doesn't function. You can't taste something far away, no? So I think distance, all that matters in the way the, you know, the preference or the priority is given to the senses. So animals doesn't require too much of observation. They are, the difference between animals and humans is that animals come 95% or I don't know the percentage, but somewhat done. But they do need intelligence. Not that they are not intelligent, they are automation. So they have to use their senses, their intelligence to find food and all that. So this is interesting here. How the child is constantly observing. उसको भी चढ़ना है, लेकिन वो देख रहा है कि वो Okay, I'll show you this video. You look at this and tell me what you're seeing there. Take the blessing. He will bless you now. Hyderabad. Anahad. Thank you. अच्छा आप लोग को what is it? क्या observe किया आपने? I'm not doing any tests. I just want to see what did you notice, not to make grades much. और कोई? मैंने रिवील कर दिया पहले से तो बोलने का कोई फायदा नहीं बट एनीवे no it's simply actually the first bit in the front is actually observing the feet, looking at similarity to thing and different. This is the most important video I have. This is actually the crux of learning. What all of the senses are doing is this comparative study. Observing difference, observing similarity, and combining it. That is what it is doing. Constantly, all the senses are functioning in this manner. पहले एक चीज तो देखा, second time when it connects, finds similarity and organizes and categorizes. Okay, the challenge. So in the context of natural learning, the way nature learns, some redefinitions are required because the definitions right now you have is related to teaching paradigm. Okay. So within the context of natural learning, there is no teaching. There is no word teaching in any indigenous community. It's a new invention. There is no word teaching. That itself is a proof, that it's a movie, that with the idea of teaching is a new invention. In fact, Pavanji, हमारा एक दोस्त है, वो मसूरी के पास एक गांव में जाते रहते थे, तो उधर के लोग बोला कि why don't you learn our children? So there was no word for teaching. He was telling us, why don't you learn our children? Of course, now those words have come, but so that is the thing, So learning, when we say learning, it's about creation of knowledge. Understand? Like what you saw. And it is implicit. It is not in the realm of language at all. Understanding in the natural system, understanding doesn't require language. In fact, language has no role. Whatever the child did, there was no language. And learning also means your formation. It's a two-way process. Understand? You remember learning how to make chapati? याद है आपको? Cycling याद है? Can you tell me who taught you? Or you chapati or anything like that? Or swimming? Who taught you how to swim or swimming? Who taught you? Yeah. Eh? Yeah. Okay. Any other thing? Chapati, if you can tell me, who taught you how to make chapati? I know अभी डरा हुआ है, कुछ तो बोलो. अभी इंटेलेक्चुअली मत किया करो. जो दिल से आ रहा है उसकी बात करो. अभी don't be so too careful about it. वो भी इंटेलेक्चुअल ये है. बोलो. कौन सा है? नहीं ये सब नहीं. Okay. अरे सुनो ये सब अभी खेल है. That's the usual answer. अभी मैंने आपको थोड़ा केयरफुल बैठने के लिए ये किया इसलिए इस तरह के आंसर आ रहा है. नहीं तो usually what I get is that mom taught her 15. Cycling is by a friend or somebody. Swimming is usually a coach. Especially in a modern society, swimming is done by a coach. Correct? These are the three answers one normally gets. But you know what I mean trying to do was to relook at it slightly more differently. And it is actually from my experience. So what I say is that Atta teaches you how to make atta, how to knead. Cycle teaches you how to cycle, and water teaches you how to swim. Because whatever ability you need to cycle, it is a cycle that has it. Your friend doesn't have it. Coach doesn't have it. Have the ability to, you know, it is the water that is, and it is your body that is learning. It's not the mind. So what the coach does is to teach the mind first, and the mind touches the body. Understand? Yeah. Yeah, you have to, the memory, na? You put in your memory, first the coach said, ये हाथ पहले करो, फिर ये हाथ करो. तो स्विमिंग करते समय ये काम करते रहते हैं.
स्विमिंग हम पूल में भी करते हैं, तो है.
हाँ, वो
वो
तो है. What I'm telling is that it is, you know, I'm telling the difference between how one our conception of what is learned. We always say there's a teacher who is teaching. That is why we are telling it's the mother or somebody teaching. And we not looked at very closely the process of learning. That is the second thing. You know, that learning basically is an experiential process. No language is required. It's a process that transforms you. That's it. So two things that I remember. One is that I was telling in NID, I was, you know, learning, and luckily when I was learning, you know, in the ceramics department, the head did not want me to go and work there because officially I'm not in the ceramic department. So I used to take clay and start working. So luckily I was saved from the methods and the tools. I began to work with clay, and I felt that I'm learning from clay. Clay is almost guiding me. You know? Actually, that was what is happening. But I became aware of it. Understand? And the other thing is that once during one of the one session that I was doing in Kerala, some people had come and we had gone out for swimming, and I don't know how to swim. So I was watching some people swimming. I clearly see difference in the way two people were swimming. One was absolutely spontaneous, and the other one was jerky, mechanical. So when they came out, I checked and I found that the jerky person was coached. He went into a coaching. So naturally, it was not the body that was responding spontaneously. And creativity again is a completely misunderstood idea. Creativity basically means responding to the unknown. But in the context of modernity, two ways it has been misunderstood. One, it has taken into the realm of art. Creative person means he has something to do with art. The other creativity is doing permutation combination. Understand? It is never, because see, we have never in modernity, we have never encountered unknown. We are constantly dealing with known. Understand? Whole schooling paradigm is dealing with known. So this is a very, very important thing to understand, that in the context of natural learning, creativity is something that every child is doing. Every activity a child does, crawling and sitting, you will teach, you know, how to crawl and how do they climb onto the chair, you will know. So every activity the child is inventing, and it is natural. And curiosity is another term that all schools these days use. Make children curious, even though we have no curiosity at all. So curiosity again is something that life has given for every living being. It's not a human thing, you know. And luckily when I got this video, I found there's no way we can match the curiosity of a, I don't know what, a cat or a something. क्या बोलते हैं इसको? है ना? इतना नहीं हो सकता ना हमारा. Yeah. Again, this today morning we were talking about the whole notion of questioning, because every time many homeschool parents come and ask, you know, if the children ask something, what do we say and all that, no? So we only created the habit of asking. Otherwise, they don't ask. If you don't introduce them to language, they will have no questions actually. Absolutely, because question and answer is integrated, you know. Whatever the child is doing is actually question and answer working together. No, otherwise they will be just sitting, no. वो करे तो रहा ना हर time. So again, West is completely now. You see, the thing with West is that they are merchandising everything. They have to sell. So they have to create all kinds of confusion and create products. So play meaning toy चाहिए, play activity चाहिए. तो उसका play worker है आजकल, you know, worst creatures now, play workers, you know, most dangerous to children. Every way children's life is being, you know, controlled, and everything child is being killed. Because, you know, these new things are being. You heard of play worker? अभी नया चीज है यार, तो पूरा वेस्ट में तो बहुत चालू है अभी. They're clown, and they're supposed to clown with children, teach children how to, you know, be happy and all that, you know. They come with clowns, you know, clowning and all that. It's happening all over West. And they're very happy. They're very sensitive play workers and all that. What an oxymoron, no? Sensitive play workers. So playfulness is the quality of a child, and every activity is playfully done. Every activity. So this is very, very beautiful activity that, you know, which combines the earlier comparison with the nature of how children create toys. This is a coconut piece. He took a first bite. Immediately he remembered the bull. इसका जो similarity देखा. Immediately he told it's like the bull, and then he remembered the you know, moon, half moon. Understand? So there is a constant. And this can only happen if the child has explored the world. It cannot happen in the classroom without experiencing things, you know, because these are real things. These are not imaginary. Every activity the child is connecting. So this is the way in which cognitive structures get developed. You know, understanding the world. You know, what does it have to do? I mean, what else is it doing? It's exploring the real world and connecting all kinds of similarities. So this is basically the principle used in making of toys. In fact, toy making, what children does is 100% cognitive process. It is not done for fun. And play basically, when it's a reenactment of earlier experiences, that's play. Every activity children see, come back and reenact it. And in that reenactment, the props that children use is the toy. And any object is a potential toy, any object. So in that sense, it's always a process. And the other important thing is that the idea, this is idea of jugaad, no? The word of jugaad. No? Jugaad basically comes from this activity. Otherwise, it doesn't happen in adulthood. It happens from childhood. They are making use of things. So jugaad basically, two things are happening. Either use one product for different, you know, purposes, or you use process in different you know, situations. So that is what jugaad is, and that is what children are doing throughout their exploration of the world. And this is what is intelligence, creativity, all this is in this only. So here that object is it become her son, that's a child, and usko fir gaadi banaya, so you know, or it was used for something else. So constantly there is a, depending upon the context, the child make uses of things. So that way ready-made toys are far more dangerous than schools. Abstraction, very natural process. And again, it's a process like digestion, it happens inside. It's not a thing that happens outside, automatic process. He's comparing this, it's a umbrella frame. He connected something with that and he's saying that is JCB. So he's combining two different things. You know? And abstraction is trying to understand the basic rules, laws behind things, or of the rules of categorization. Which we मिलो so they will do something improvisation. This child was given a truck. So as he was taking the truck out of that box became garage. So, and then body of toy. खुद बन गया था ना, याद है आपको? आप भी बनाए थे क्या कभी? So clearly it is about experiencing what you experience. See, what is happening is that we are all the time extrapolating from our concept. So in museum they see some small thing and they say this is the toy that children played with. Understand? In the Valley civilization से कुछ तो मिला हुआ था कि उस टाइम का बच्चा इससे खेल रहा था तो टॉय बना दिया. Understand? Actually, if you go into any rural tribal area, you will find small dolls for ritualistic purposes. It is not children's toys. Because we know it, we know that this could be the same thing. And if you actually look at what children do in a normal natural society, you will never find that they are making toys and playing with it. They will explore different materials for its possibility. That is different. They will do, for example, this bamboo leaf. They will take a bamboo leaf, put spit on it, put the leaf like this and run. It'll start rolling. Understand? So all this is basically exploring what is happening around. It is not, and this is a very temporary thing, So the problem that is happening is that, like there are stages in how children learn to walk or talk. There are also stages in this, in play and take toys. So initial stage, they will play with dolls. But that's the time when they just, moved out of being treated that way, they will do that. After that, they will start doing what they experienced prior. So school जाके आएगा तो वो school खेलेगा, तब भी वो बच्चे नहीं बन के नहीं बैठेगा वो. So clearly there is a connection between what they experience and what they recreate. But when you give them a ready-made toy, you're actually infantilizing their experience. They're constantly, doing this boo thing, usko koi kar raha hai. That's why today, I mean, quite older people are, want a doll to sleep with, 12-13 साल का बच्चों के साथ में भी वो आजकल क्या all that, soft toys and all that. All merchandise want to trap people into buying things. And of course, they will then have some psychologists certifying it. Of course, that's the whole nature of toy. Any object, look at this. Connecting. So this is what children are doing, constantly observing the world and making connections. Any object, toy. The temples in Tamil Nadu, they have the chanda. Not double. And even if otherwise, whatever they get, they will do something with it. They also eat like this only, They eat it. So we ran a school for 3 years near Pune, me and Narendra. And so that is 3 years of where we really began to practice, meaning providing a situation of total freedom, no teachers, no teaching, no books, and they were doing activities, and we were using that. So we have a huge collection of videos, and and this documentation, actually what we want to do is to, we have been trying to share fresh lab on cognition. What is by lab is the terminology I'm using because, so basically a research lab to tell people what is really cognition, how children understand the world, what is the structure. And unless unless it doesn't go from a university, nobody is going to take it seriously. So we are hoping that somewhere we can establish or a really funded kind of a place where we really provide good material for people to understand. If there is time, I will tell you that 2-3 things that I'm really wanting to do further, because parents will have to really come out of this trap and observe children and re-understand. There's no way, because you have cat damage. If a rural, see, I always find it's so easy to talk to a rural person, to tell them that that's what they're doing is right. Here the problem is that all this is filled with so many theories, Montessori and everybody, So to come out and tell, that's going to be very difficult, So this is why educated will have to be re-educated to to really observe the child without any frame. So this may help, And actually, we give far more importance to imagination in modernity, primarily because we are always imagining. We are in the realm of the mind. And what we actually have is imagination of imagination. And what a child does is imagination of something concrete. So here the imagination of the child, baby, they're recreating. So this is an imagination of something. Can you tell what this is? Father and mother, they are sleeping now. Laptop? So this is basically the fundamental issue about there's nothing about learning separate from this. This is what learning is all about. And so I'll show you how do they understand the how their process exploration. When you were children, when you got the book, you remember keeping the book like this? But understand now. Don't do that for anybody. From her, I'm telling you that if everybody has done it, there has to be something related to that. No? You remember sitting on any child sitting on a sofa, they do like this. Are they learning from anybody? Your father, whenever he wants, who is doing it? Why is that every child is doing it? So my thought that if every child everywhere is responding to situation in the same way, it has to be biological. It's not something that I require. Sitting on a sofa, every child does it. There's a fantastic correlation between each of them. Everywhere the sector are doing very similar things, and there is a very clear structure to this. This I found very interesting. So what children learn, so they learn the various attributes of the world and see how the senses function is very important. What you see, you hear, what smells, touch. This is the thing that we don't function for. Everybody has some engaging with both sides. And the purpose is saving life. That's the basic purpose. the child respond. And of course, this is the final thing. When I show you the images, it become a bit more clear. Relationship and context. मतलब जो context में है, इसका मतलब वही है. मैं इतना elaborate इसलिए जा रहा हूँ कि so it's important that I may not be of much use to you, use to me. If I have to really, because as I told you earlier, I want to establish somewhere a proper research center to understand what children are all about. But it will also help you. If you begin to observe children, definitely this is going to, you will be reminded every time when a child does, yes, this is what the child is doing. Yeah, what I told you earlier. So all this is impacting the way what the child is exploring. Form, what I told you is the appearance. And of course it changes. Now that children are seeing multi-story buildings, they are not satisfied just with this. So depending on how many books you can provide, you will keep building. और बच्चों के लिए ये बच्चों का किताब इसके लिए अच्छा है. फंक्शन मीनिंग ये सब किया होगा ना. ये तो बेडशीट डाल के घर तो खेला है ना. So here it is very clear, it is not about appearance, it is clearly about function, not about property also, not about process. Because this doesn't take time. You put a bedsheet, उसका functional aspect आपने obtain कर दिया, यानी एक contained space. वो कैसे भी हो सकता है. The other day, Shashi's children, they put few umbrellas, chairs. इस चेयर को उल्टा कर दिया, चेयर को करके वो घर बना दिया. Umbrellas, that's the best, 3-4 umbrellas put together, that's a house. So functional thing, when they are looking for an appropriate thing which can be used to create in a contained space. Understand? So process में they recreate, where the mehnat is, putting to create the house. So you will put chair, table, जो भी है, pillow मिल गया, bedsheet आ गया. So उसमें the whole thing is how do you make something. So clearly you can see difference between form, function, process. And इसके वजह से आपका structure बन जाता है. And of course you have seen many times it falls down, and then you rebuild it, which means you're also then looking at the structural stability finally. This is part of the school. And by the time we were leaving, they had actually constructed a big one, really, we could go in, that kind of. So property of material. तो स्कूल में हम लोग दो चीज किया. एक, we remove waste paper basket completely. Because the notion of waste again is a modern concept. Nature doesn't have waste, so indigenous communities doesn't have waste. And recycling is a very natural thing. It's not an activist idea. That's the way nature does, and that's naturally the way they also do. And the other thing that we did was that whatever, and the other mistake that modernity does is to create things specially for children. And we reduce it, and we infantilize children because of that. Because we treat them as idiots, so we have to teach them A, B, C, D. Whereas actually a child, if the child is able to speak 4 languages without any, reduction, which means they are capable of understanding the world as it is. They don't need a simplified version. This is the problem. So they don't need mini chairs. They don't need special food. And all this actually you're doing is disabling the child. In fact, you're making them greedy. You're turning them into a consumer. I feel food should be simple. No choice should be given. Because the way the modernity is trapping people is through food. 2-3 things modernity is very carefully how to trap a person. One is sex, other one is food, then your appearance, your ego. Usko boost karte jao, you are trapped in the consumeristic mode. So if you don't give too many choices, and we are really not having any need for that, the real freedom is cognitive freedom. you know, and that is the only thing that they need and that we take away. And we compensate it with food, cloth, or whatever, which they actually they don't care, whatever dressing. Do you think they will worry? Absolutely no. So these are things that needs to be, you see, the issue is this, that why indigenous communities are simple and all that, that they're not equal, they're egoless, no? There is a different ego that is existing. Self and the selfless is existing together. Self-preservation is important, but the other preservation is also is equally important. So I think this fragmentation of our integral beingness, which is both ego and egoal, I'm using this terminology, sorry, but कुछ तो बोलना है ना, इसलिए मैं यूज करता हूँ. मेरा है शायद ना. देखा कैसे स्लाइड कर रहे हो. So, the reason why I feel adults should not interfere much with children is because their mind exists in a different way. In fact, our mind also, it's only because we are educated, we don't have the mind of a, there is something called, what is it called? When all the birds are flying together, they are unified, what is it? No. No. Anyway, that's not the term. What it means is that the mind is functioning as one mind. All the birds' mind is functioning as one mind. So they don't have to tell, now you go, ऐसा तो नहीं है ना? Understand? They are always readjusting. No, it's not allowed. No, don't. Eh? No, don't worry. Don't use your brain now. So एक term है, it's a scientific term है, it doesn't matter, but you understood what I mean, na? So I have seen this in the rural tribal people. So when few people are working together, especially children, when they are working together, they don't have to instruct. Everybody falls in line and they know what needs to be done. And I remember once, being with the potters, but they were doing something together, and one potter was telling me that he lacked ulkaika. Ulkaika means seeing from inside. Kaika means seeing. It's a term I have never heard an educated person using. Yeah. So they were doing something together and they were not using language. Oh, kar raha hai, ye kar raha hai. So everybody was falling in line. And I've been documenting this also, how this boat, two people are rowing, one in front, other one in the, no instructions, but both are doing two different things. So they are actually becoming one body and responding very clearly to that. And I've also gone with a Britisher on a boat like this, and he will stand there and instruct what to do. Ye karo, wo karo. Understand? So this is one thing that the child has. So my brother's son did not go to school till 12 years. So and now he's 23 or something like that. Sometimes we talk about some of these things, One day he told me one very interesting, that our brain, our mind functions as, actually he is the one who told me this very clear. He told me one day that there is a pond and right there is a tree. So on the tree, 5 of them were on top. And the thing was that this is a ship, and sea hai, and they are going in this. And so there's no conflict of, there's no argument, no, ye tree nahi hai, wo hai, When somebody says this is the ship, everybody is fine. Everybody is actually now experiencing the sea and the ship. And they are telling, look, there's an island, and everybody is seeing it. I understand. So there's no conflict at all. How they get into a magical frame of mind and understand, na? They are not at all logical. Like we become so rational. I remember my father was once telling my niece, niece bolta na, brother's daughter ko. एक दिन वो बोल रहे थे कि I want to fly like butterfly. So my father said, no, you will fall down. This is the modern mind, I mean the educated mind. And the other one, similar thing was that a child wanted to dig and see what is happening. You know, ऐसे ही बोला था. Similar stupid answer of this educated person was not my father, someone else. Was, you know. So what I'm telling is that no, they have a magical mind. They also have a collective mind. It's a collective mind. They're not one mind functioning separately. So the collective mind, so that is the reason why we should be very careful in being with them, because we don't gel. We have actually many more examples of this, you know, how children in the school were making a temple. So, 5, 6, 7, I think around 10 of them, it was small activity, but 10 of them were doing, and all of them were doing in different places. Nobody, no conflict at all. In fact, there is another very interesting thing about our first experience when we started the school. First experience of a child drawing in one page, one A4 size. She started drawing. Other child came in. She started drawing. Third, fourth, 4 children drawing in one paper. You know, all the 4 sides, and no permission being asked, no denial of permission. It doesn't exist in the mind at all that this, you know, either of this should be there. Then after a point, the first one who actually started, she went away, and the others continued to draw. So if you actually see everywhere, we are establishing an unwanted ego in them. When you say this is good, or you write the name and put it up, every activity we do is to take them away from a different way of being, which is both magical, which is, you know, in life itself, you know. So what schools teaches this? Your body also changes. In fact, you're teaching for a long time, you have a teacher like walk. Your body, not serious, I have seen, especially principals, you know, the body changes because authority changes the way you function. Your body itself takes on a different sense. How the child is making use of that spots, no? वो उनका बच्चा student है वो, classroom है ये. So how beautifully they, you know, changes the situation. So my cognitive foundation में ये मैं I'll talk about this. This is a very I don't know whether this kind of study is there in the West. Cognitive foundation meaning in the natural cognitive foundation is that when we are born, we have inherent qualities and abilities. Their potential, depending upon the context, this is no. But in the natural situation, the first input is sensory. In everywhere, the first input is sensory because you cannot through language tell any child in the beginning. And then, of course, the word gets connected to the word, to the experience. So इनका लिंक बन गया, ठीक है? उसके बाद उनका inference आ जाएगा. Imagination नहीं आता है, फिर inference आता है. अगर in absence also, you know, suppose it is rain and the rain is snow, but looking at that you infer it rain, ना? But concrete experience से ही infer करते हो. तो inference आएगा, फिर उसमें imagination है और फिर abstraction उसका process में है. And then of course categories create करते हैं. Conceptual उसके बाद हो जाता है. You cannot, you know, ready-made. You cannot teach anybody concept. You know, that's what we are doing now through education. So what happens in the modern situation is that the first layer, first 2 layers, ना, उसको deny करते हैं. So from 3rd standard or whichever time you begin to use language primarily, उसका initial उसमें गड़बड़ हो जाता है. But today what is happening is that in the modern homes, because they are living with, you know, teachers only, parents नहीं है आजकल, सब टीचर ही है. तो वो टीचर वो शुरू से स्टार्ट होता है ना. तो वो सही में अभी तो because it's not a choice. What you go, when you get schooled, you become a teacher. That's what schooling does to you. So then they उनका उधर से स्टार्ट हो जाता है. वो because language इतना ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल है, तो एक another kind of cognitive उनका सिस्टम जो है वो बदल जाता है. बंद करो क्या? Huh. So we have a fantastic study on drawing. So this 3 years when we ran the school, we have been documenting whatever they were doing, and we collected all the drawings, you know. And in the third year, we put together the drawings, and then we were actually every year we used to do samvad. We invite people to understand what children do, and we were actually basically wanted everybody to collaboratively work together and really figure out what do children do, what do they learn, you know. And in the third year, we began to look at all the drawings that children were doing. And as I put it, we found that again the kind of correlation I found in play and toys, no? On the same thing in drawing. That's when we seriously began to look at drawing. And we found that drawing is actually a cognitive activity. And the purpose is to learn the real world in terms of two-dimensional space. Understand? So, and because we teach as an art, we completely confuse the child. And this drawing should be uninspected, like the play. Play, and suppose you can't tell children to do this, na? So instruction बिना आया ना, drawing भी वैसा ही आना चाहिए. लेकिन drawing के लिए माहौल चाहिए, उसको उनका कोई praising की जरूरत नहीं है. Never get the skills, because they are not worried about they are not worried about making a house like this, na. You won't say अच्छा घर बनाया ना, that one. ये cognitive activity है, तो उसमें अच्छा बुरा की बात नहीं है. They are exploring how the world looks, So drawing precisely is a cognitive process, and so I will just go back to that. So what I feel is that there is a fresh research required in these three areas. One is knowledge creation, how children learn the real world. Second is language. What is the purpose of language? What is the connection between word and the world? How children begin to communicate right from the time when they are out. I mean, boom, I don't know. I'm quite interested in the boom story also, because I believe that choicelessly, the moment it is born here, it is learned. And it learns what the mother learns. It learns what the mother experiences. So that area also, I think, is very, very important. The whole experience of the mother and the father is part of the experience of the child. So that area also needs, not a scientific, but a very sensitive understanding through experience, not some expert telling, what is it doing to me, and that way I think it needs a revisit, So communication, and this is another area that has been again completely misunderstood by modernity, where beauty has never occurred to the role of beauty. You see, whatever I am telling doesn't require any input. Now, since we have messed up everything, we need to re-understand. Otherwise, none of this needs to be. That's the reason why you go to any rural tribal area, things are beautiful. Beauty, again, is a biological response. It is not something that you have to consciously do. In modernity, we have to do that, because we have fragmented beauty. So beauty is an afterthought. We have done something, then we see, oh, we have to do beauty. But in an indigenous situation, beauty is what you do. You don't have to think about it. And if you don't interfere with children, that is what children do. Natural response of a biological system is to, and beauty is actually about aptness. It's not about appreciation. You don't have to appreciate. It's about being apt, being in harmony. This आजकल ये बहुत चल रहा है, compassion too. So I also think that is also natural to be compassionate. Any child, if you be with a child, how, unless उसको fear डाला है, otherwise children are compassionate. So this adapting to the experience to adapting, that's why I'm calling it adapting, because drawing that way is a biological response to connect 3D and 2D. That is why when children draw, it's very clear. Now, maybe some other time or no? आपके पास भी हाँ, टाइम है ना? statue. हाँ. So let me just do my marketing this way. तो हम लोग ना, आप मेरे लिए marketing नहीं कर रहा है. It's a collective need I am trying to express. That I've been also talking with Shabar and all that, creating a website in the form of a Facebook. I'm not Facebook name cholo, but what I'm trying to say is that a space where parents and whoever is interested in children observe children, document it, and then upload it, and create a space for everybody anywhere to understand what children do actually, but very spontaneously. But the first and foremost condition is that we have to create an environment of freedom to children. What they do spontaneously is what we should be uploading it. No? So, and then how do they begin to communicate? Because differentiating between what is the role of language and word, that needs thing, and also drawing. But drawing now is going to be important because two-dimensionality has come into our life. So we need to, provide an environment for children to smoothly enter into the 2D world. So maybe drawing could help. I don't know. These are attempts that now with the screen coming in, one doesn't know. Maybe it might take some time for us to figure out what is up, because 2D is also going to be there. So yeah. See, this is a biological thing. It's not an urge which is intentional. There is a need for harmony which makes us organize things in a certain way. It's very natural. It can seem silly actually. I'll give you one example. Simple example. This is that I saw the two tribal people sitting. दो जन ऐसा बैठ के बात कर रहा था. ठीक है, दो जन ऐसे बैठ के बात कर रहा था. तीसरे जन आया. तो ये थोड़ा रीऑर्गेनाइज करके तीन बन गया. That sense of order. बट हमारे इसमें क्या है कि पूरा कुर्सी हो गया ना, तो तीन नहीं हो सकता है, और आजकल वो हेवी है. बट इन कॉलेज चिल्ड्रन पीपल विल डू वेरी स्पॉन्टेनियसली. वो कुर्सी को भी इधर उधर तोड़ के वो आएगा. So this urge for order is not, it's a different purpose, And this is one more marketing thing. We want to do an event called Celebrating Childhood, Celebrating Life. Maybe towards the end of this year, where we want to really relook at what the hell is happening with it. And it is like you can call it conference, confluence, congregation, whatever you want to call it. Totally fresh look at what are children all about. And we want to look at what happens in the womb, what is a natural birthing, how other kind of birthing damages a child, all that actually. So do something. So if anyone of you are interested, do connect with us. And it's not our event; it is everybody's event. We are just taking, every day this is what I think about. That's why I'm, So, and basically the sub-theme is this: lessons from Indian traits, nature and children. And it is for us, not to change them. हाँ, और मार्केटिंग में भूल गया, हमारे किताब भी है. पढ़ना जरूरी नहीं है, लेना जरूरी है. हाँ, सही बात है, लेना जरूरी है. No, this actually Shachi and Ranjana got together, forced me to do something. My writings only they took and then began to reorganize and made it into a very interesting way. Something called Initiating Inquiry. And then we are coming out with a book on drawing. We are calling it Seeing with Hands. Hands for seeing. But in the West, actually, मेरा एक reactionary heading है. एक वो drawing को बोलता है कि thinking with hands. I want to purposely, call it Seeing with Hands. For them, it is a thinking tool. So for me, it is about reclaiming our senses. So this will come out soon. And so drawing you want to see, ना? मैं फिर language भी दिखाता हूँ आपको. देखो, language also follows the same rule of learning all the rules are same. It is about form, function. It's about metaphors. It's about creating connections. You know. So language is a name given to our experience. In that way, experience is verb and language is noun. And our understanding of metaphor is usually in the realm of language only. But we found that experience is where they begin this metaphoric activity, like comparing different things. No, suppose metaphor ही बोल सकता है ना, similarity को ढूंढना, वही तो हो रहा है. So maybe we can call it metaphor in action, you know, form, color. So similarity ढूंढना. For example, I'm sure when you played vegetables, you must have used a flower instead of बैंगन. किया हुआ आप लोग कोई खेला नहीं होगा ना. Okay. ये फॉर्म का मेटाफर है. So in the natural thing, adults provide the word, children hear the sound, meaning gets made in experience. एक एग्जाम्पल ऐसा है कि किसी ने बोला कि चेयर, keep the chair outside the room. The child is hearing clack 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 आवाज, ना sound सुना, लेकिन बच्चों ने देखा कि when that sound was uttered, एक कुर्सी बाहर लेके गया. Understand? और फिर उसने सुना, और maybe another day they say keep the chair near the door or whatever. No, again that sound got repeated and found that that object is going there. You got it now? So the understanding is happening of the experience, not the word. So initially, all the understanding is around experience itself, without the word. Slowly, each of these activities, each of these objects get the word. So that is the first thing, and meaning gets created in experience. So what is clear is that our senses has access to the world, not the mind. Mind don't understand. Give a good example. How many of you are afraid of injection? सच बोलो यार. मैं तो थोड़ा आगे कोई भी नहीं. तो मुझे क्या है कि चाइल्डहुड नो हमको डराते हैं इंजेक्शन से, है ना, इंजेक्शन देगा. तो क्या होता है कि our mind is what connects with injection. And because we do not know the actuality, either we tend to create fear because we don't know. Understand? But actually when you get experience, then you know, which means that it is the body that actually experiences the real. Mind can only imagine. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Senses have access to the world, whereas mind has access to language. And vice versa. Senses have no access to language. तो ये इन दोनों का मिलते हुए इसको क्रिएट करना है. That is when you are able to integrate the body and the mind together. So sound as language, body. The child uses all these things. Body as language, word as language. तो एक बच्चा पानी को बोलते थे. And but when the child was taken to the sea, the child said Pabu. Understood? So Pa is water, Bu is a sound, and hand was showing the size. So one full sentence with all the three. Understand? So you see, this micro thing is important to really understand what the child does. Anything we may think it's useless also. Any activity a child is doing should be observed. Otherwise, people would think that why is he talking about Pa and Bu and all that? So इसको really observe करके इसको समझना जरूरी है. So this is very interesting. A child saw this peacock flying. The child told, look, Kaka. Kaka means crow. Then the same peacock got down and started walking, and child told Kutta. The same thing. Why? Because the initial category the child has made is that all flying ones are Kaka. because kaka is the first experience of a bird. This is category building, and all walking words are kutta. So the same thing became both kaka and kutta. So you can see how this language and the knowledge is getting constructed together. Same thing with form. Okay, children call the mimi tha, tiger देखो बड़ा mimi बन गया, और lion थोड़ा confusion था. Face was like Billy, whereas the body was clearly a dog. So ये language का यही ये है. Let me just quickly take the drawing ना. I'll quickly do drawing. At least just few. मैं ये full नहीं दिखाऊंगा. Just let me just show you the other. Really too big. But just to give you an idea that why we say drawing is ये दिखाओ क्या? So actually what we did in the school was to totally reorganize our space. So they could they could do drawing anywhere, anytime. There was no timetable or anything. They could, only then that spontaneity will come, na? नहीं तो वो पीरियड करेगा तो फिर प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा, नहीं तो स्पेस देगा तो there was nothing like that. Anywhere, everywhere they were drawing, like this, floor, wall, and of course there was never a thing of drawing, separately. देखो ये play and drawing एक ही activity है. Play is on a two-dimensional thing, on three-dimensional. Drawing is a two-dimensional play. It's a combination of toy and play together. So cognitive act क्या है? कि activity that children do spontaneously to understand the world. That is what we call as cognitive activity. So it stages in drawing. So I'm looking at the similarity between other things. Crawling. Okay. This is there in the YouTube also. You can browse, and if you go there, you'll find it. Okay. Sure. So blabbering and scribbling or crawling. Every child does this, and then slowly some form emerges exactly like the way from that blabbering sound. कुछ तो आवाज you are able to connect ना, पा आएगा तो मेरी उससे पहले तो वैसा नहीं था ना. Similar thing you see in drawing, and of course what they see, what they draw. So human being का face आता है पहले, not the other part, no? तो घर सामने का ये आएगा और bird वगैरह, because I think this is also to do with convenience. I don't know why. Vehicles and all that, they usually draw the side. But these are two really rare cases. Do you know what this is on the other side, on the right? That side? क्या चीज है? क्या है? Yeah. So this child used to sit next to the driver every day. So wiper और वो आ गया, वही दिखता है ना, droge. Understand? And this is also, this child this is her buffalo. She used to feed that buffalo every day. So only she did this drawing from the front, because feeding means सामने जाओ रोज खिलाओ, है ना? Very rarely children do this kind of drawing. नहीं तो ये साइड का आता है नॉर्मली. और ये क्या है, धीरे ऑफ कोर्स एट ए लेटर स्टेज एक ही ड्राइंग में तीन एंगल है, टॉप व्यू, साइड व्यू एंड फ्रंट व्यू. ये राइटिंग भी वैसे ही स्टेज है. शी इज एक्चुअली राइटिंग. So the principles of all learning is same. There are stages. Observation is important. Understanding form, the same thing. Form, function, process, depending upon the complexity. Dimension change मतलब 3D 2D तो नहीं हो सकता ना. तो थोड़ा reduction होगा. Do you know what this is? Bull. But look at the abstraction. With minimum lines, they are able to get the essence. तो ये essence का एक stage है. Different type of trees. तो छोटे-छोटे एक्टिविटीज को represent करना. And events in daily life. और धीरे-धीरे इसका complexity, like the way from one word it becomes a story, उसका complexity बढ़ा देता है. 2 people, 3 people. And the other thing that I found very interesting is that when children draw, they are able to actually represent the age. You can look at that. Look at the child there, that lady with this thing. Not a child's face, no? That is what I found very, very interesting. Or whatever is the events that they see, experience, that becomes their subject of drawing. So it's exactly like play. Anything that they experience, they come and reenact or they draw. And they constantly revisit it. So other very important thing about the content is that the content never changes. It is the depth and the complexity that gets increased each time. So definitely stages we have इसका, meaning a linear line drawing आ गया एक गाड़ी का, और नीचे देखो wheels are in 3D, and there are different aspects, Sometimes they want to do the chairs, When in that time we had this one child, he was fascinated just with this car and that. So 2 books, 200 pages, only this. One was only wiper, different type of wiper. So that day, that is what he was interested in, So one day I was actually traveling, गाड़ी में था, car में था, and I remembered this child. I don't know for what reason, and it started raining at that time. And immediately my attention went to the wiper. And from the next half an hour, I was looking at all the wipers passing, all the vehicles. So a child is constantly doing that, when the child is interested in that. ये clear cut evidence है कि how it is a constant exploratory process. एक ही child का ही है. Almost like an observation study, again different types of 3D 2D exploration. Now you can see almost reach 3D. तो एक ही बच्चा का नहीं है, अलग-अलग बच्चे का है, but still you can see a clear process. Very interesting actually. Top view. हो सकता है. तो ये हर इसमें है ये जीप को भी वैसे ही ट्राई किया, इवन साइकिल का भी कुछ है, बाइक, घर का है, स्टेप्स में है, डोर में है, सिमिलर एक्सप्लोरेशन इन ऑल। हाँ, ये मैं बोल रहा था, वाइपर का अलग अलग। एंड व्हाट इज इंटरेस्टिंग इज दैट children do not have problem trying to draw something moving also. ये कंटिन्यूस प्रैक्टिस चलता रहता है, उनको एक फिनिश्ड प्रोडक्ट का आइडिया नहीं है, वो एक्सप्लोरेशन चलता ही रहता है। इमेजिनेशन, देखो हाउ दैट एक ही ब्रांच में 3 स्ट्रिंग्स आ गया, इंटरेस्टिंग। शी वाज प्रेग्नेंट, सो 1 चाइल्ड पेट के अंदर आ गया, और बिल्ली का 2 जनरेशन। तो सिमिलर थिंग वो फॉर्म का भी कभी कभी है, where accurate form gets made. ये वाइपर की बात है ना, इसका मूवमेंट फंक्शन ये कर रहा है, सीनरी। तो धीरे धीरे उसका कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी बढ़ जाता है। So the interesting thing about drawing on using this chalk and all that, they continuously erasing and creating more and more stories. So one day I saw this thing happening, half an hour to 1 hour. These 3-4 children were drawing, telling something, हंस रहा था, फिर write कर रहा है, बना रहा है, continuously happening. And then they saw me coming, तो जल्दी मेरे को ड्राइंग किया, वो भाग है, ये टाइगर है, ड्राइंग किया, फिर उस इरेज किया और मेरे को पेट के अंदर डाल दिया। So this I found very interesting thing, because look at our notion of drawing, of patheticity. एक ड्राइंग किया, नाम दे दिया, चिपका दिया, बस। But that's not the way they are looking at drawing at all. And this is how we destroy cognition, by teaching them all this kind of silly things that, how to draw this, how to draw that. Easily draw करो। तो ये फर्क ये है, this is all product focused. What children do are all process focused. Even color and all that is not really required. You see, what happens is that when you give color, they will start exploring color. It's like this, when you give children eraser, our notion it is to erase, na? But for a child, it's an object that has a property. So they will use eraser and they will keep rubbing anywhere and see that it is reducing the size. It has nothing to do with the action of erasing. They look at that object. Like when you give children, cutter and pencil, they keep on doing it, na? Their intention is not sharpening, but they're seeing how it is doing. So material exploration is what children are doing. So this is what it is, ये और लंबा कहानी है। मेरा एक छोटा एक्टिविटी में सोच रहा था, वो एक्टिविटी ये है कि Um, I'll tell you why. Oh no, I won't tell you why. Actually, objects, no, जो भी objects that are beautiful and not flowers, वो थोड़ा pick करेगा तो अच्छा रहेगा. Anything that you find beautiful, but no flowers, and don't pluck anything. Anything from the ground, three objects, and make a bouquet. Bouquet बोलता है ना? That'd be nice.
तो टाइम दे दो कितना है?
आधा घंटा 15 मिनट तो जल्दी जल्दी आके जल्दी जल्दी वापस आना होगा 15 मिनट ठीक है 20 मिनट
आप लोगों के लिए
अच्छा हाँ आप लोग आराम से कर सकते हैं आधा घंटा नहीं नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं या श्योर तो वो बुके लेके आ जाना जो बुके लेके आएगा वो अंदर बैठ सकता है नहीं तो वो बाहर तीन ऑब्जेक्ट I tell you why I'm doing it.
they have to be from the ground. They take it from here. Yeah.
You get the meaning here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can take this also. From the ground. Any object from outside. No plastic. Only natural objects.
Okay, friends, we would be taking a pause now and see you in some time. Thank you.
टीचर शुरू करने के लिए है अच्छा ओके
ये नहीं ट्रेन अभी
जरूरत नहीं है
अपने लिए
बाप रे मैं और बात कर conversation. एक मैं सोच रहा था कि it would be good. Jinan keeps on asking questions to me. And you respond. हमारा ये सबके सामने होता नहीं कॉमेडी वही सोच रहा था उस दिन रात को तो बहुत ही अच्छा है परसों या ना there yeah and Jinan it would be good for a lot of people to introduce Narendra. Later on we'll fight outside. कभी ये तो बताया नहीं ये तो बताया वो I got it. अभी मेरे को समझ आएगा क्या बोलना है उस दिन जो मैंने जो बोला था मैं वो बोला था I'm jealous of Narendra. Jealous because he's so content.
We have gone into very, very similar places, and had the same questions, similar questions. But he came back with no answers and all questions disappeared. I'm carrying all the questions still around. So, बस ये introduction. मैं जितना भी बात किया पानी किया
Actually, something unfortunate happened. Just when he was walking, I went out and I took a bath. And after that, I'm feeling lower energy. So I really like to know what Jinan has figured something. मैं थोड़ा सा ऐड कर देता हूँ One is that I haven't done anything. So, adding up to what you mentioned, I think one of the highlights of my life that I would have, what I want to do a lot, like any young one. But first, I didn't know. Secondly, I happened to quite by chance, that's also my wondering. I happened to land in a forest, Chhattisgarh, and I had to stay there. Part of the region is very remote, very primitive, pre-agricultural country. Don't know what's there. Most of them have not even a tea. And then impenetrable of trees. There's nothing. No one can say what. No market, no shop, nothing. I brought there for a research project, and I was there this particular for 5 years. I needed a permission to stay because outside that's not allowed. Supposed to be left. I managed to. And the also taught on social science. Theme of the research was tribal perceptions and the modern world. But nothing what you had from talking cement building, and they didn't have in the vocabulary words that I had. People actually, I still remember when I was small. We didn't have friends. We didn't have the word friend. Most word we didn't. There was no word. When I moved to town, then we were like friend. In the village, we had a lot of intimacy, affinity. Now I look back and we didn't have words. So in that region, there were no words for that. I said, how do I talk to them? And in their vocabulary, they didn't know what they had to be. Like we have thousands, and they didn't need to talk more. So I realized that here, where even verbal communication is not possible. And I had this after first 6 months, I completely irrelevant. I gone with some big dreams of writing a big piece. After the and unnecessary. And I realized that it is not that way who need to search it. I am myself. Counting is only up to 5. Words are no more than 3 to 5. They are not keen on knowing anything. The sun, what is the earth, is the river. You understand that every day there. But beyond that, they don't want to know anything. And I was coming from a highly knowledgeable and knowledgeable. And I found it was what no use. But mind, no use, this reminds me of something. After I started, then I got a issue from my Buddhist group who speak for mindfulness. The principle that now, पता नहीं क्या होता है और वो बैक टू नो अरे ये वर्ड सुना करेंसी so go back and I wrote more vigorously. So I will go into work because I live with people who are mind. अब माइनस में बोल रहा हूँ मैं वो जनरस लोग थे मुझे तो उधर माइंड का भी काम नहीं है और भी नहीं है यह भी नहीं इतनी पढ़ाई कमोडिटीज यदि वो नो concept idea mind so suppose that these are other factors I will try to and let me look at myself they are the mirror and let me see how much and then I stay on for those when I had gone in there, I had call young men. Personal, social. वहाँ आंसर देने के बाद एक भी क्वेश्चन करता बोला मेरे क्वेश्चन ही उठा अब ये इतना बड़ा डिलिब्रेशन की शुरुआत but it has got triggered but we are all the time speaking solution there's a huge sense of crisis and this sense of crisis is not 10 years old or 5 years old it's at least 70 because I've been getting this sense of crisis for my time. And it is not ending. So we have developed a vocabulary of very unfortunate and we impart the same to our children. हम हमारे घरों में पढ़ेगी नहीं तो क्या करेगी वो नहीं करेगी तो क्या होगा अगर नहीं करेगी तो क्या I found this to be like crisis from the world. Now this is given by me. It may not be true work. It may be given in a formula in my so-called social sensitivity. So I have a daughter who's not good. When she was small, older. I remember also people. Sold more than 60. पर्सनल में जबरदस्त वैसे तो 40% बोलता बट 60 से ज्यादा करना ही नहीं so that does not reflect you may be a hard working child and possible like ease so you will get ease with yourself only if you what you need not acquire anything you have talent for anything like any child you have a talent for focus more on these and this stage of रॉयल चीजें कि उस टाइम बाद तुम्हारा साथ हो एंड देन और तुम्हारा अपना टैलेंट भी फुली ऑफ तो नर्चर जो करता है they are naturally given you don't need to all children have some talent but all of us but I'm told to be objective in it. Let's forego myself and do something else. And comfortable. But anyway, she disappointed me. She scored 67. And to talk about college, the second year. Was I was a past master. I was expert. कुछ नुकसान नहीं हुआ. डराओ अपने को लोग डराएंगे. उसको भी डरा. कुछ नहीं होता. I will give you experience है पूरा. छोड़ के क्या हो? कुछ भी नहीं. Everybody is in a crisis. तो कुछ भी करोगे लोग. The moment you start being yourself, and she was very fond of, all that I said, plus animals, nature. So I used to take her with me to. Well, I stayed there more than later on, after staying in that interior for 5 years, and I continued staying there for the next 33, not 20 years. So I used to take her with me for a lesson. So somewhere she developed some interest. So she became fond of all these things, and I said, no. I followed through. So now she's working with for nature conservation and that's what. And that's what every parent wants. Push her. Now she tells me that I want to resume my studies on this work. कहने का मतलब ये है कि एक ट्रैक में फंसा दिया जाता है because that is the only mode of making it work. Then I have a sense of no matter how much I do, and they show me and it's not that they're able to do it with me. So person who's 99 or who's sad was वो लोगों को मैंने देखा ये तो कुछ है ही नहीं, ये तो कपड़े भी नहीं पहनते, और women wearing clothes from here to above knees or lubla, और वो सब किराए का है सब मस्त रहते हैं. तो वो जो मैं इस चीज से सफर कर रहा था वो मुझे वहां देखने को ठीक. Often we ask ourselves, how much money do I need to live a simple, healthy, certain amount? But we never ask ourselves, how much knowledge do I need? Procurement of knowledge generation, wisdom. छोटी छोटी बातें ऐसी. 2-3 दिन से एक बात कह रहा हूं, अभी एक लड़की कहती है बोर हो जाएगी. मुझे बोल हो जाता शर्मा भी. Who did you also include? And the earth is the light. and the electricity, and the physical, and the universe. This is not only the book, science books, but about scriptures. अंतहीन endless. नींद नहीं पड़ती। अब मुझे मालूम पड़ गया लेकिन मैं डर मेरे लिए अपनी माँ के साथ जुड़ना पड़ता, भाई के साथ जुड़ना, जिस घर में रहता था उसकी बहुत। अब एक नया कीड़ा का धरती से भी मालूम पड़ गया ना, पहले तो मालूम नहीं। And for years I lived with this. And now I ask. तो आजकल ट्रैवलर्स के बच्चे न्यूजीलैंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया नहीं पढ़ते हैं। So I asked the school, actually, the school, just tell me, how big is it? A student got my question. So before my question finished, he answered, it's only as big as it appears in one. उतनी ही बड़ी जितनी एक निगाह में दिखता है। मेरा वो सवाल, इस सालों के सवाल को डिसॉल्व इतनी बड़ी है। वो जो नॉलेज जनरेशन सोसाइटी बड़ी ट्रैपिंग गुमराह, but it's very difficult to get out there because this process that we are living in, it's gone so beyond us that we can't. It is now irreversible.
The sooner it does, the better. Because this will not stop a human enterprise. So all these AIs and these things are actually symptomatic. This ever increasing, ever progressing inquiry, knowing. That's what beautiful. There's a very nice word in Hindi called Maryada. Maryada is how much wisdom of anything, including knowledge. This I got to, these questions got raised when I was there. उनको तो जस्टिस भी नहीं पता है, सोसाइटी भी नहीं पता है, और वहां मुझे महसूस हुआ कि हम जिसको समाज है उसके पहले का भी एक स्टेज था, which I would in my work call pre-society study. Because a village was of 3-4 scattered huts, and they did not do anything. Anthropologists बोलते ना food gathering and hunting, such a misleading word, and all this knowledge is there. It seems as if you have these huge dustbins in cities. Either cows go foraging for food, cows go foraging for food, cats go, birds come. ऐसे लगता है कि tribals also must be poor, tribals must be foraging food. People who don't even know agriculture, who don't know what is called economy, who don't have a source of livelihood at all, not even work, but not at all. They don't even know there's something called livelihood. No shop, no trade, no commerce, no science, no technology, no progress, no finances, no agriculture, no mode of what we call earning. only parents in anything. कुछ उनको इस बारे में कुछ पता ही नहीं. Yet in 100 years of living, there has not been a single tragedy, not a single crime, not a single molestation case, or teasing or rape or things like that. इसीलिए मुझे लगा था कि इनको रिसर्च करना बिल्कुल जरूरी है. मेरे समाज में ये रोक के ही नहीं रुक पा रहा है, तो कहीं तो प्रॉब्लम वो तो होगी नहीं. So there, I know there I found that, and I felt, and I still believe that I need not intervene in my own thing like career, profession, study, knowledge, inquiry. For a simple life. So simple life is not wearing khadi, in communication with each other, or speaking the truth. Simple life is, हम लोग सुनते हैं ना, मैं तो बहुत साल से सुनता आ रहा हूँ, ऑलमोस्ट बचपन से. कितने मिसलीडिंग बातें सुनाई जाती हैं. लिविंग विद नेचर, लर्न टू लिव विद नेचर. कितना बड़ा मिथ हमने फैला रखा है. अरे लिविंग विद नेचर कुछ नहीं होता है. लिविंग लाइफ वो तो पॉसिबल. विद नेचर आप क्या समझते हैं अपने आप को? यू विल लिव विद नेचर, लिव लाइक नेचर. तो टाइगर भी वैसे होता है, रिवर भी वैसे होता है, लेपर्ड भी वैसे होता है, आदमी इंसान भी वैसे होता है. इसीलिए तो वो मिनिमम कपड़े पहन के घूमते हैं. टाइगर कभी भूखा नहीं मरता है, लेपर्ड कभी भूखा नहीं मरता है, इंसान वहां कभी भूखा नहीं मरता है. ना टाइगर के पास ऑक्यूपेशन है और ना आदमी के पास ऑक्यूपेशन है, लाइवलीहुड. और वहां से 10 कदम बाहर निकलो तो हाहाकार मचा हुआ है, रिवायत हो रही है. कभी खाने के लिए, कभी कोई प्रोटेस्ट हो रहे हैं, कुछ भी, मतलब कुछ ना कुछ हमारे दुनिया में होता रहता है. So that raises a lot of issues in that. Where the hell are we? And this mirror, I could get only there. Because like Jinan was saying, modernity has destroyed all this. It sees only itself, and the rest is separate, condemned, closed down. Like for example, traditions. I'm not very fond of them, but I'm giving an example. Or the earlier kind of conversation. I remember, I'm saying earlier kind of conversation, because when I used to talk to my mother, who fortunately was only class 4 pass, I never had any discussions with her. I had only gossip. Same I found in that remote area, that we never had discussions. We had only gossip. And as I grew older, my conversations began to be replaced by discussion. Now my mother could not understand me, and I could not, and I found what my mother is saying. हमारे बचपन में गाय ऐसी होती थी, हमारे बचपन में तालाब ऐसा. अरे मैं बोलो चांद के पर नहीं पता है आपको. तो हमें गैप आ गया. And like most of many growing up young people of that age, I had begun regarding my mother as stupid, but it's okay, she's a mother. I appreciated my mother only after the issue. Then I came back, and then I used to hold with her those informal conversations, not telling me about your childhood. And she was telling me some fascinating. किसी किताब में नहीं मिली,
किसी सेमिनार में नहीं मिली, किसी कॉन्फ्रेंस में नहीं मिली, और उनको मैंने डॉक्यूमेंट कहीं नहीं. My mother, anybody mother for that. There's no source of knowing that. There's every source of knowing what the Indian Constitution is, but there's no source of knowing. You know what my mother did with that 1 paisa she had stolen from my nana's pocket. और 1 पैसे में वो मूंगफली लेने गई थी. मूंगफली इज पीनट. आई शी वाज स्मॉल, शी डिडंट नो. तो पूरा बैग फुल आ गया था. अबंडन की कुछ देर पहले बात, वो एक झोला लाद के ले आई, थोड़ा सा उसने खा लिया, अपना छुपा के कहा वो गाय को खिला. तो ये जो चीजें हैं ना, ये कहीं सुनने को नहीं मिलती, कहीं पढ़ने को नहीं. Because that was a way of life, simple, easy, and experiences that can be communicated only in context. We cannot be communicated. Discussions are thematic. They issue purpose of life, democracy, freedom, equality, gender, and what not. ये discussion तभी होगा. But my mother and me, we never talked about this. So we could have one, which are far more enhancing or so they were to me than all the seminars, conferences that I attended. And I gave up in reading, like Jinan was saying many years ago. I gave up attending seminars which were knowledge. So all these are systemic things. आज जो सिस्टम को क्रिटिसाइज करता है वो भी उसी ही की भाषा में करता है. इक्वालिटी नहीं है, जस्टिस नहीं है, फ्रीडम नहीं है, जेंडर इश्यूज हैं वगैरह. तो मैं देखता हूं कि जो सिस्टम में है वो तो ऐसी भाषा बोल ही रहा है, उसका विरोध करने वाला भी वैसी भाषा, लेकिन मेरी माँ की भाषा कोई नहीं बोल रहा है. बात तो सारी वहां पर. तो ये जो भाषा का बदलाव आया, ये चेंज इन वोकैबुलरी, it has shaped my world. So, and hence we unease with the world. Disease हो गई, and disease का एक आप सबको पता भी होगा, you split it into 2 parts. So dis-ease. So this unease, this seeking, this wanting to know, this wanting to do, कुछ निकल आएगा. मैं आज ही सुबह हमारी 2-4 मित्रों की बात हो रही थी, तो मैं यही कह रहा था, सीकर से भगवान आता है, मैं नहीं मिलना चाहता. I want to be comfortable under my skin. Like my mother was, like Astu was, like Panda was, like Tulki was, like Chatur was. ये इससे बड़ा वैल्यू कुछ भी नहीं. So, but this I got to know only when I, by accident, had to do this. Or by chance. Before that, I had not even known where this is. But somehow, life has been very, very kind. Extremely kind. And so you do trackings हैं पूरे of doing, because they are a non-doing community. That's why they're not starving. That's why there's no crime. That's why there's no harassment. That's why there's no disease. Occasional bukhar ho jaye, that's another matter. Seasonal bukhar ho jaye, that's another matter. Yeah, somebody fallen from a tree, broken his elbow, that's another matter. But what is called disease, whether in terms of medical disease or in terms of disease, so I live a simple life, I think. I don't know much, I don't want to know. And I avoid people, and I never go to issue with someone. बहुत कर ली, बहुत पढ़ लिया. मुझे अखबार अखबार पढ़े या किताब पढ़े या 15 साल हो गए हो, I do with children's stories. That I like. I find they're very elevating. In some strange way, but they're elevating. तो कोई सवाल भी नहीं है, ना जवाब भी नहीं है, तो आराम से हूँ। बट ये वहां से हुआ, शुरुआत वहां से हुई और वो शुरुआत कल। अब कहाँ जाएगी मुझे नहीं मालूम। चुटकुला वो जो स्पिरिचुअल गुरुजी वो गिविंग अ प्रवचन and this applies to modern society. गिविंग अ प्रवचन, इसीलिए मुझे आध्यात्म से भी डर लगता है। ये जो आध्यात्म भी कोऑप्ट हो गया है। वो कोई प्रवचन दे रहे थे, जीवन गतिशील है, जीवन चलता रहता है, जीवन में आपको रुकना नहीं, चलते रहना है, गिर पड़ो उठ के चलते रहो, लेकिन चलते रहो, रुकना नहीं है, चलते रहो। कोई अनपढ़ आदमी बैठा हुआ था, खड़ा हो गया, बोला गुरुजी लेकिन ये बताइए जाना कहाँ, ये तो बताया नहीं आपने, चलते रहो, मैंने कहाँ जाना है? तो हम लोग चल रहे हैं। We don't know the best of the experts on earth. I don't know them, but going by the symptoms that are visible to us every day living, and how they say that, so we are not going in the right direction. Our language is such, it is misunderstood. Our sensitivities have become such, they are misplaced. हमने कॉन्वर्सेशन को डिस्कशन बना दिया, अब लाइफ एक इशू बन गई। इट वाज नेवर एन इशू, अब रहना मुश्किल हो गया। लाइफ इज एट स्टेक नाउ इन फेस ऑफ सच इनक्रेडिबल प्रोग्रेस। ऐसी प्रोग्रेस तो सोच नहीं सकता था सच अबाउट पार्ट ऑफ प्रोग्रेस, तो इनकंसीवेबल कि हम लोग यहाँ, लेकिन मैक्सिमम फ्रस्ट्रेशन अब है, सुसाइड अब है, क्राइम हर तरह का अब है। So we somewhere need to question all that we are wanting to. We are wanting to ask, whether it's knowledge or it's progress or it's change or it's whatever else, you know. ये बहुत बड़ा सवाल है। मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ, ये पर्सनल लाइफ में अफेक्ट करता है बहुत बुरी तरह से, and it doesn't remain limited to me. It's reflective revelation, even the most intimate relations. I think that's all that. Fortunately, बोल के मेरा हेडेक खत्म हो गया मुझे, अभी इसके पहले हुआ था। So thank you very much for storing that. I should find it. आप लोग बहुत दूर नहीं जाते। कोई क्वेश्चन हो किसी के दिमाग में तो कृपया ना पूछे। मेरे पास जवाब नहीं। ये ना सवाल है ना जवाब, तो एक डिस्कशन हो जाए तो उसको छोड़ देते हैं, ठीक है।